Black teen. Humiliated. During will reading, until they realized she inherited everything. She walked into the room, head held high, but the whispers followed her like shadows. Every laugh felt sharper, every glance heavier, and suddenly she realized the world around her wasn't as safe as she thought. One simple moment, one careless word, and everything she believed about fairness was shattered. No one expected what came next, but it would change her life forever. How do you face a world that sees you as less until it can't ignore you anymore? It was a bright Saturday morning, and Maya had just finished her last class of the week. She loved the quiet rhythm of her neighborhood, familiar faces, children playing, neighbors tending gardens. Her backpack swung lightly on her shoulder as she walked home, humming a tune only she knew. Life felt ordinary, predictable, safe. But that sense of normalcy was about to shatter. Today, she would step into a room filled with family, wealth, and expectations, and none of them would see her the way she had always believed they did. The whispers were already starting, subtle but sharp, and she couldn't yet know how cruel the world could be. Maya stepped into the grand room, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. The air smelled of polished wood and expensive perfume, the kind of place she had only glimpsed in movies. Family members were gathered, smiling at each other, exchanging polite nods. But when her gaze met theirs, something shifted. The smiles didn't reach their eyes. Whispers started, soft at first, then louder, sharper, like a wave crashing against fragile glass. She felt it immediately, a divide she couldn't cross, a tension she hadn't noticed before. As the lawyer began reading the will, Maya tried to stay calm, focusing on each word. But with every clause, the room seemed to shrink around her. Questions murmured under breath, skeptical looks exchanged, snickers suppressed but audible if you listened closely. Each laugh felt like it carried a weight, a silent accusation she couldn't understand yet. Her pulse raced. She knew she was meant to be invisible here, a spectator in a story she wasn't allowed to own. Then came the real test. Her name was called. The room fell into a tense silence, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Eyes darted to her as she approached the center. Comments slipped. Small, cutting remarks, disguised as jokes, questioning whether she deserved to be there at all. "Are you sure you understand what's happening?" one whispered, a smirk playing on lips that should have offered warmth. Another laughed, eyes glinting with a mix of disbelief and disdain. Maya's stomach twisted. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but every word felt useless, swallowed by the invisible barrier that separated her from acceptance. With each passing minute, the humiliation grew. She could feel it in the stares that lingered too long, in the laughter that stopped abruptly when she looked up. It wasn't just about money, it was about recognition, about being seen, about being valued. And yet she stood there, shoulders squared, refusing to let them break her. A knot of anger and determination coiled in her chest. Then, just as tension peaked and the room seemed ready to consume her completely, the lawyer paused, eyes scanning the room. A hush fell over the whispers. Something was about to happen. Revelation that would shift everything. Maya's heart raced faster, her breath caught in her throat. The moment that would decide whether she remained invisible or finally commanded the room was seconds away. And in that silence, every eye turned toward her, waiting. The lawyer's voice echoed in the room, each word cutting through the tension like a blade. Maya's name was repeated, louder this time, commanding attention. Every eye in the room bore down on her, some filled with disbelief, others with quiet contempt. Her hands trembled slightly, but she held her head high, refusing to shrink away. Then came the moment she had feared and secretly had been waiting for. The lawyer announced her inheritance. Shock rippled through the room like an electric current. Gasps, dropped jaws, and stifled murmurs erupted from the very people who had mocked her, who had whispered that she didn't belong. The laughter died abruptly, replaced by stunned silence. Maya could feel the weight of every judgment, every prejudice, every assumption finally colliding with reality. She had been underestimated, ridiculed, made invisible, and yet here she was standing taller than anyone in the room. Her chest burned with a mix of anger and vindication. She saw faces shift, some red with embarrassment, others pale with disbelief. Every ounce of mockery they had thrown at her rebounded now, powerless, against the truth. For the first time, she realized that the world couldn't define her worth. It had only tried to convince her that it could. And in that frozen silence, Maya smiled quietly, a calm that carried the weight of every insult she had endured. The room that had seemed so imposing, so suffocating just minutes before, now felt like it belonged to her. She didn't need their approval. She had faced their scorn and walked away unbroken. Maya left the room that day with more than just an inheritance. She carried a newfound sense of strength, a quiet assurance that no one's prejudice could diminish her worth. The whispers, the laughter, the subtle glances, they no longer held power over her. What had been a moment of humiliation had transformed into a turning point, a revelation that sometimes the world's cruelty only uncovers the resilience we didn't know we had. She realized that her experience wasn't isolated. The subtle dismissals, the assumptions based on the color of her skin, were threads in a much larger pattern, woven into countless lives, shaping opportunities and defining the ways society judged people before they even spoke. And yet, standing there, victorious and unbroken, Maya understood that recognition, justice, and dignity weren't given. They were claimed. This moment was more than personal vindication. It was a quiet reminder of the systemic biases that still exist and the courage it takes to face them. Every mocking glance she endured, every judgment cast her way, had built a resolve that no one could shake. Her story was a mirror, reflecting the reality of racial injustice, and a beacon, showing that resilience and self-worth can overcome even the harshest prejudice. As she walked away, she didn't just leave a room behind. She left a challenge in its wake. A challenge for others to reconsider their assumptions, for families and communities to see beyond color and status. And for every viewer watching, she left a simple yet powerful question. How often do we let judgment define someone before we truly see them? How many times will the world underestimate courage before it finally respects it?